Prince Ali, yes it is he, but not as you know him. Read my lips and come to grips with reality. Yes, meet a blast from your past, whose lies were too good to last. Say hello to your precious Prince Ali. So Ali turns out to be nearly Aladdin. Just a con, must I go on, take it from me. His personality flaws give me adequate clause to send him packing on a one-way trip, so his prospects take a terminal dip. His assets frozen, the venue chosen is the ends of the earth. Whoopee! So long, ex-Prince Ali. Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and I'm so excited, man. We have had a bunch of information dropped for Set 8, The Reign of Jafar. I know Set 7 isn't even out yet, and already we're getting all these drops about Set 8, which is still 3 months away, but I don't care, man. Y'all know how excited I am for The Reign of Jafar, and as we have been speculating for a long time, well, ever since we got our first Illumineers quest, Deep Trouble, we've been saying, we've been praying, we've been hoping, are we going to get one of these once a year, every 4 set? Is this going to be a standard? We had a little bit of a clue for that in the fact that the German version of Deep Trouble was called Volume 1, so that was actually like a direct clue, but we could all see it coming, and it has officially been revealed on the Disney Lorcana official website, a new section all about Reign of Jafar. Look at my man, does he not look so dapper? His crown, his realm. Jafar has taken over Arcasia's island, corrupting the beautiful haven into his menacing fortress. His reign may be the greatest threat that Lorcana has faced, and I'm so down for it, man. And we see here a bunch of featured product images. We've got the booster packs, the booster box, the single player decks, the trove, new card sleeves, new mats, and of course the main event today, Illumineers quest. This information all came out yesterday, and I'm already sort of super late in getting to it. The information's already everywhere, and sometimes when that's the case, I just don't bother doing a video if it's just news, but you had to know for this I was going to talk about all these reveals. But one thing that at this time not everybody may be aware of, something that I've been very fortunate to get a hold of, is the new Illumineers Palace Heist product description, which has started to go out to retailers with a list of everything which is inside the box. At this time, I don't have an official sheet that I can show you to actually prove this, but my source is good. I wouldn't be talking about it on my channel if I wasn't 100% certain that this is accurate, but by all means, take it with a pinch of salt. But I will be talking through that product list and doing some speculation as to what I think Palace Heist may end up looking like, because I don't think it's going to be an exact clone of Deep Trouble. But before we get there, we are going to look through all of the other product images that have dropped of the sleeves, the mat, the starter decks, a ton of stuff that we can start to unravel here. A shout out to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. So let's start to take a look through some of these images. This one we had revealed a while back. I absolutely love this image and this art, man. I'm hoping that this ends up being a card, like we get an actual card out of this depiction of Jafar specifically. Maybe not, it might be just specifically for this marketing image. Nonetheless, I am in love with it. But we now also have the packaging for the booster box, which we can already start to break down a little bit. We see on the front here, we have Tiana and Bruno. This Tiana looks like a singer to me. And then up top here, we've got this image of Jafar, my man, looking dapper as they come. We've got Rapunzel here in a super cool outfit, and we have this Minnie Mouse who could potentially be a knight. She's holding this brazier torch thing where the symbol that's coming out of this torch, I think it's meant to represent fire, although I think the shape is quite steel-like, but the shield is 100% an amber logo, and the shield is the core shape to represent amber, so more than likely this is an amber card, but perhaps it's a dual ink. But all of these images looking super, super cool. This packaging in general, I love the colouring. And we can go on to have a closer look at the packs individually. Here she is again, that Rapunzel. We have the Minnie Mouse here with the 2 animals in the background, which I kind of reacted a little bit to all of this dropping on Wonderland's channel, The Wizard, on his Twitch channel the other day. And he pointed these out to me. He was like, who do you think these are? And I was like, I feel like they might be Bambi related, but I think more than likely they're probably just generic animals for Snow White or Aurora or something. And Wizard was speculating that it was Pain and Panic in their rodent and rabbit form, and we compared pictures, and there is they are very clearly different. But hey, maybe it still is. Maybe the Wizard is right, and they've just changed the art style slightly just to throw us off. But they probably are just generic animals. But nonetheless, this Minnie looks super, super interesting. And of course, the main man himself. Look at this man. I need to Hexwell Crown. I need to Jafar Snake stuff. I need to make that happen. And moving on to the new playmats that we're getting, this Emerald Hades from a couple of sets back. I'm in love with this art, so I'm super, super happy that this is a choice for one of the playmats for set A. I adore this. Just look at the Lake of Souls and Meg, and this is just stunning. I love it. And then we have this one depicting the Rescue Rangers, which isn't really a series that has much sentimental value to me. Chip and Dale do have a little bit, because the first time I ever went to Disneyland when I was 7 years old, Paris, we stayed at the Davy Crockett Ranch, where you camped. You had either you brought your own stuff to camp or a camper van sort of thing, but Chip and Dale were the theme of that place to stay. So I have a little sentimental spot for them, but the series overall, not really for me, but I'm sure there are plenty of huge Rescue Rangers fans out there that will be super glad to have this, and this is an adorable art piece, so yeah, I think it's a great choice. Next up are new deck boxes going all the way back to Chapter 1, this being the enchanted version of Giant Fairy Tink. A little bit of a surprise to see this. I'm not mad, but obviously we got the Tinkerbell, the original Giant Fairy art on a playmat a couple of sets back, and now they're giving us her enchanted form on a deck box. So yeah, I'm not mad. It's a great art. And this one I am super, super pleased to see on a deck box. I kind of wish this had depicted the enchanted version of Wayward Sorcerer Mickey, personally. That's one of my favourite enchanteds in the game, especially from first chapter. But this art is still stellar. I'm a big fan of this depiction of Mickey in general, so I will no doubt be picking at least this one up. Then we have the Trove, nothing new here, all of these images that are on the box art, although we do see the scarabs here, Jafar's scarabs, which of course in Aladdin lore, he has the 2 pieces of the scarab that lead him to the Cave of Wonders. Here he's got multiple. That will just be a Lorcana narrative / Jafar is a sorcerer and has unique powers thing. So yeah, this Trove looks really beautiful. Now onto the starter decks, which absolutely prettiest packaging on starter decks yet for me. They've both got this red star, which I absolutely adore. But this one is Amber Amethyst depicting Tiana and Bruno. Love Bruno's coat there. And yeah, this Tiana, if this isn't a singer, then I will be very, very surprised. And it's been noted a bit recently that Amber feels a little left behind in Constructed. Set 7 didn't really give it all that much. Maybe Set 8 will be Amber's time to get a lot of significant new toys. And yeah, like I said, this Bruno looks super cool. So yeah, like this. And then this one we have Ruby and Steel depicting Mulan and Stitch. Mulan holding the last cannon, and Stitch obviously with his plasma blaster. I think that's what it's called, but it's an item in Lorcana. And this is started some speculation that perhaps we're getting some sort of new mechanic, a new keyword, something which specifically works hand in hand with items. It's possible. It certainly could be a thing that happens. They have some sort of, I think one tweet I saw about it called it something like Equip, where they just have this fancy, I don't know exactly what it would be, but just a new keyword which gives it very specific cool interactions with items and holding items, even though in Lorcana items aren't held, they're just items that you have on the board. I think far more likely it's just that these characters, maybe this deck overall, are going to have a lot of characters that just synergize well with items in general. I don't think it's going to be this Mulan specifically searches out last cannon. If it is, I kind of like that. I love cards that like work specifically with cards to do with their lore, with their franchise. And like maybe this Stitch specifically works well with the, I think it's called Plasma Blaster card that we've got. I think far more likely is it's just they're going to have abilities that work well with item cards in particular. But if I'm wrong, I wouldn't be mad. If they want to bring in a new keyword and spice things up a bit, then awesome. But yeah, these starter decks, love them. And that, of course, brings us to our main event. We have Illumineers Quest, Palace Heist. This art, mate, unreal. And it's a box. When Deep Trouble came out, I was very lucky to be invited to go to the Disney store in London on the release day to pick up a copy and invited to review it. And it was a stellar review, and I stand by all of it because I love Deep Trouble so much. I love the concept of Illumineers Quest and different ways of playing the game. It was so fun, and it opened up like a world of, like, I'm a big D&D fan. So when I saw something like that, I'm like, oh, like, you could really be creative with this, and you could treat the Ursula character, who is technically, like, the Ursula character in Deep Trouble, you can just play her as players. Like, there's a rule book that states exactly how she takes her turns, and there's no player choice. She always does the same things. So you as players can just control her the way, like, in Monopoly, you would control the bank. But you could have a dedicated person play Ursula and play out the Ursula turns and, like, add some roleplay to it. And, like, there's flavor text on all the cards. So, like, you could either improvise or you could just go off, like, the script of the flavor text on the cards. And for me, it just opened up a world of possibility. The one thing that was a negative to me for Illumineers Quest, and I've prepared pieces of it here so that as we can talk about it, was the box. Beautiful box, don't get me wrong, love this. This has been up on my shelf in display, you've probably seen so. But opening it without damaging the box was an absolute mission. Like, I was so careful, and I've ended up gluing it back shut just because I wanted to retain the box and display it in my background. But it was not practical for being able to store the stuff that came in the kit, which was the mat, the battleground cards, the victory card pack, and 3 decks essentially. 2 decks for players and then Ursula's deck specifically. So it wasn't really great for storage. So that was the one thing that I said that I really wanted to see change in the future if they were going to do more of these. Do something like what Villainous do. Villainous have beautiful boxes that you can repackage everything back into. And this appears to be that. Again, I'm hoping that this opens and closes in a product friendly way. I don't want to have to like rip something and then if I want to use this box to store it, that rip is always going to be there. Like, I want a way to close this box like in a sufficient manner. But love that it's a box. This art is absolutely stunning, and if you turn your attention to the right hand side here, obviously you've got the Lorcana image in the middle, and then at the bottom here, this to me looks like a cobra with, I don't know if the red inside the mouth is meant to represent magic, red venom, something along those lines. But this to me looks like the mouth of a cobra, and the red bit at the top is the eye. If you're seeing anything else here, please speculate in comments. I'd love some more opinions. And if we zoom in here, obviously we've got our Illumineers that are meant to represent us as the players. And then, yeah, this is the Citadel on Owl Island, which Jafar has transformed to match his aesthetic. And we see this happening in the incredibly stunning enchanted Jafar that we're getting in Arcasia's Island set 7. Man, like, I went kind of OTT for the Ratigan reveal. And everyone was tagging me in it, and I'm so in love with it, and I'm so glad Ratigan, my boy, hasn't enchanted. But this, the Jafar, oh my money. Take every single bit of it. Just give me these Jafars. Anyway, this is beautiful, and we see Iago up here as well, and it looks like he's got a little bit of colouring on the wings there. I don't know if this is meant to represent magic, and like, I feel like this is going to be a, I don't know, is it like, Iago will clearly have some sort of aesthetic change to match his master being this Grand Sorcerer with the Hexwell crown. So maybe that specific Iago that we're seeing there, we will get a card for. I'd be very surprised if we don't get cards for Iago in Reign of Jafar. Anyway, let's talk through the product description and the list of what Palace Heist includes. So it starts off with, having reforged the broken Hexwell crown, Jafar has transformed into the formidable supreme sorcerer of Lorcana. It's now up to players to sneak into his stronghold and steal back the reforged crown before he becomes all-powerful. In this game of keep away, a ruthless underling or item from Jafar's deck is all he needs to seize the crown, but make it through the traps and obstacles he set up through the palace, and players will recapture this source of power. Whether players go after the crown on their own or team up with a friend, the two-player decks are designed with characters, items, and more that will help them on their daring quest. Plus, with 4 battlegrounds to choose from, players can determine the difficulty level that's right for them. Palace Heist includes 1 Jafar scenario deck, 50 cards with storage box, 2 player decks, 60 cards each with storage boxes, 1 oversized Jafar card, 1 reforged crown tile, 1 Palace Heist playmat, 2 cards featuring 4 battlegrounds, 1 Jafar draw token, 5 lore tracker tokens, 29 damage counters, 1 victory card, Palace Heist rules sheet. So again, this is the product description that has started being sent out to retailers. I don't have an official document, nor can I share my source, but again, I wouldn't be talking about it on my channel if I wasn't 100%. So let's start to break this down. If you did not get Deep Trouble, just a brief history on that. There was this storyline where Ursula had the Hexwell crown and had taken over Lorcana, and she had been basically turning glimmers into her personal servants and entangling them, and this story was told through the artwork between sets 1 to 4. And she has her own deck, and a lot of this deck are versions of characters. There's Hercules, there's Prince Eric, there's Anna, there's tons that have all been entangled by Ursula, and they are now fighting for her. The deck also had items that she could take advantage of and really powerful actions and like stuff that would be really broken in the in constructed gameplay. And Ursula would play slightly differently to players. Basically, she doesn't need to exert ink to play her cards. If she's got enough ink, then she can just play that character for free. She also needed to get to 40 lore, and she would draw more cards depending on how many players were up against her, and when she hit certain lore totals, she would draw even more cards, so it starts to like get more and more intense as she gets closer and closer to game. But the rest of the players play traditional Lorcana. They play all cards in the traditional way, they challenge, they quest, and they all need to get to 20 lore to beat Ursula. The only slightly different rule that affected players that they could benefit from were the battleground cards, which are listed in this product description, which we'll get back to in a moment. But yeah, you had these different battleground cards. It was 2 cards with basically 4 different battle cards available, so they're double-sided, and you chose which battleground you wanted depending on the difficulty that you were hoping for, and obviously the difficulty can get harder, and at the hardest, Ursula is drawing more cards and getting various benefits, but the player can also benefit from the battlegrounds by paying lore to get certain effects, like characters get extra strength, or you can just draw cards yourself. So there were things that players could do slightly different from traditional constructed Lorcana to aid them specifically in Deep Trouble. So let's go through all of these items. First of all, Jafar scenario deck. It was called a scenario deck for Ursula as well. So this will have a bunch of characters and actions and items through which for Jafar to combat the players who are trying to steal the Hexwell crown from him. We've already seen in set 7 there are some illusion characters, the new characteristic with the vanish keyword. I expect we'll get a lot more in Reign of Jafar. It is highly likely that all of Jafar's characters will be illusions, at least in colour. Whether or not they will act the same as constructed play illusions, like they might be illusions but they might not have the vanish keyword, then again they might, and if so, that means that all of Jafar's characters, all you need to do is target them with an action and they're immediately banished. If that is the case, then there will definitely be a meta for trying to beat Jafar, and then you want to play those cards like Improvise and the cheap actions that can target. But I think for that reason, I don't think they would build it that way. So maybe some of Jafar's illusions will have Vanish, but maybe some won't. But then again, maybe they all have Vanish, but he's got other items and actions which maybe remove the Vanish keyword from his characters. That could be a thing, to be fair. He could have an item or something which reads your characters with Vanish is removed from your characters that have Vanish. Hopefully worded in a much better way. But yeah, super excited to see what Jafar's going to have in his deck. We have the 2-player decks, 60 cards each, which again was the standard for Deep Trouble as well. And a couple of the cards in those 2 decks were very playable as well, and you had some that were alternate arts, showing like the entangled ink like spreading onto the picture. Like there's a Pooh Pirate Captain in the deck, there's the Mulan Hidden Archer. So those 2 decks were actually pretty cool for picking up a couple of slightly playable cards, and like with different not different artworks, but slightly altered art. But the other thing that was good about it was you could take these 2 decks out intended to face Jafar, and you could just put Palace Heist aside and play a standard constructed game with someone else. So I said at the time, I think Deep Trouble was a great way of getting new players into the game, because you can start off with just the 2 starter decks, play against each other, teach them the game, and then you build up to working together to do Deep Trouble, or now Palace Heist. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a couple of cool cards in these player decks that are either slightly meta and just have some cool additions to the artwork. So excited to see that, and all of them coming with storage boxes, which was not the case for Deep Trouble. So that's awesome. The next item on the list is an oversized Jafar card. We got the oversized Ursula in Deep Trouble, which was super cool. It's not actually necessary to play the game. You can just put it on the board, like to act as like an avatar for her. It's not necessary though, but it's a great addition. I've just had it up on my display shelf the entire time. It's foiled too, so love that. Glad we're getting another one of those. 1 reforged crown tile. Okay, this starts to add some real speculation. We're going to come back to this, and we're going to come back to the Palace Heist playmat, which is the next item. So we'll go on to 2 cards featuring 4 battlegrounds. Again, talked about those a little bit earlier. We've got the exact same thing with Deep Trouble, so I imagine it's very much the same. These are your ways of setting the difficulty, and there will be perks to both Jafar and the players on these cards to take advantage of. Next up, we have a Jafar draw token. Now, I'm going to speculate shortly about things that I think might be different in Palace Heist compared to Deep Trouble, and like the way some speculation on how I think it could look. This Jafar draw token could have something to do with the unique rule set for Palace Heist. At the same time, it could also just be acting as a draw token for the player that is playing as Jafar, or the players that are acting the part of Jafar for the sake of the game, to keep a track on how many cards he's meant to draw per turn, because that was the deal with Ursula. She draws X amount of cards per turn, but can draw more depending on, again, difficulty, how many players she's against, and when she hits certain lore thresholds. We didn't get a draw token in the Deep Trouble set, but on the app, if you select the Deep Trouble mode, there's a part of it that specifically allowed you to update and remember how many cards Ursula was meant to be drawing per turn. So I imagine that's what this is, and this is like, it'll probably be on the app version, but we're also now getting something physical, which players can use to just remind themselves how many cards Jafar should be drawing based on what stage of the game you're up to. 5 lore tracker tokens, which is great. We didn't get those in the previous one, so this will be for Jafar, and for 4 players is the recommendation, up to 4 players. Although I think you could play with more technically, but 4 players seems like perfectly reasonable. And now there are lore trackers for all, which is a great addition. 29 damage counters, great. I'd like to see dice just put in here, to be honest. I would like to just like something like an Illumineers quest, which Deep Trouble was £50 UK. And I thought it was really good value for money. I would like to see real dice just put in. You already do it for the Trove. So a very minor thing, but damage counters are perfectly fine just to get you playing the game. And then 1 victory card. So for Deep Trouble, we got the victory pack. which says on it, only the victors shall unseal this packet and claim the prize within, or this treasure becomes property of the sea witch Ursula for all eternity. And I won't say what was in this. Again, it might be people that still haven't played it, so I won't spoil it. Go and play it if you have not. But it was a cool little, it was a cool little prize, and it was a bit of a teaser for things that were coming in the future. Will this be the same? Will this be a pack which has something in it akin to what was in Deep Trouble, giving us a little glimpse into the future? Or is this just a victory card, just like one of the Battleground card? I hope the former. I hope it's a cool pack, and we're getting something unique. And Palace Heist rule sheet makes sense. So the two things here that I want to draw a little more attention to is the Reforged Crown tile and the Palace Heist mat. So first of all, the playmat. This is the one that came with Deep Trouble. Incredible, incredible art on that side. And then this one, which was meant to be for the sake of either the player that was controlling Ursula, or if it's just your whole group collectively. This was where you would put her cards and it gives you the breakdown on how her turns work, okay? And this was like, you could play without it, but it was just a nice visual reminder to help remind you what Ursula should be doing turn to turn. Now, there is every chance that this Palace Heist playmat is exactly the same, and it's just a small thing just to remind you. It will say in the rules how Jafar's turns are meant to work, but it will just be a little reminder with the important notes there and zones laid out to help you remember where everything should go, which for Ursula was traditionally like a standard player. She just had different zones because the way her turns would work, you would draw X amount of cards and then you would resolve them in order as allocated on the playmat or in the rules book. So yeah, it was just to help from a practicality standpoint. And this could be exactly the same. But I'm going to do a little bit of speculation here, okay? We've got this reforged crown tile. Let's also go back to the introductory paragraph. Having reforged the broke Hexwell crown, Jafar is transformed into the formidable supreme sorcerer of Lorcana. It's now up to players to sneak into his stronghold and steal back the reforged crown before he becomes all-powerful. In this game of Keep Away, a ruthless underling or item from Jafar's deck is all he needs to seize the crown, but make it through the traps and obstacles he's set up throughout the palace, and players will recapture this source of power. Now, parts of this could/will be just colour. Like narrative, and it won't all be to do with mechanics here. This is just bringing the whole thing to life and making a story out of it, which 2 thumbs up, love that. But I do think that this could actually be signifying more towards actually the way that this game is going to be played. And it's called Palace Heist. It says right here that we need to recapture the crown. Now, admittedly, in Ursula in Deep Trouble, the point was to take down Ursula, who had the Hexwell crown, and we had to take it down, mate. But the fact that there is a reforged crown tile makes me feel like this is going to be a mechanic. This is going to be part of the game. So again, I'm just kind of spitballing and fantasizing. But what if this Palace Heist playmat is a board? Like, maybe it's still paper, right? But what if it's a whole board? To be fair, if it's super important, I hope it's not just paper, and I hope it is sturdy. But let me cook. What if it's a whole board, man, and you play your characters and they start off a certain point on the board, and they add in the mechanic of actually moving around the board, and that's something extra that's added in. Maybe it's through rolling dice. Maybe it's to do with how much ink you've got can make you move. Maybe once you've got, maybe you spend lore to start moving through. Maybe they all start off at a certain point, and once they've quested a time or two and they've got some lore, they spend that lore to start moving through. The lore is definitely going to be important. There are lore tracker tokens. Is getting to 20 or X amount of lore going to be the point of the game? Or is lore just going to be a currency in this which you need to actually move throughout? Maybe lore could still be important in addition to getting the tile, the reforged crown tile. And hey, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe there's no board and there's no actually moving through the field. Maybe it's just as simple as, hey, when a player gets to 20 lore, that player takes the reforged crown tile and they are in possession of the crown. But I don't think that would just end the game. I feel like you've got to have the crown and then you've got to escape from the palace. And again, maybe that is physical. You have a board and you actually have to move to an entry exit point. Or maybe it's something like, hey, when you get to 10 lore, you get the crown. And then you need to get to 20 to escape. But in that time, Jafar can take the crown back. Maybe he has ways of taking away your lore. Maybe he has certain cards that make whichever player is holding the Hexwell crown return it to its starting position, or return it to Jafar, things like that. So then it's like, okay, I've got 19 lore and I've got the crown and I'm about to win. Oh no, Jafar's taking the crown away from me. Oh, now it's my turn. I can quest to 20, but I don't have the crown anymore. So like, that's what I want it to be. I want it to have more to it. Maybe the whole idea of having a board and having to move throughout, maybe that's overcomplicating it. Maybe that's adding in a bit too much. I kind of hope I'm right though. Like, I think that sounds super cool, but maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it is as simple as, hey, when you get to a certain lore threshold, you have the crown, and then you have to get to another point of lore, or the rest of your group all has to get to the same lore before you actually win. But in that time, again, I think one of the surest things that I am sure of is that there will be a way. I don't think it's just, okay, you win, here's the reforged crown tile. I think it's at least a bit more than that, and there will be ways for players to drop the crown, or Jafar to be able to take it back. And like, if it is a board with like a maze, the palace that the players are working their way through, Jafar will have his own characters, his own glimmers. Well, Jafar can't summon glimmers. His own illusions that will be the opposing characters that will also make their way through the maze. And like it says here, like, it only takes a ruthless underling or an item from Jafar's deck to seize the crown. But it also makes mention to, but make it through the traps and obstacles he set up throughout the palace, and players will recapture their source of power. Is that just referring to his cards that he's going to play, and these are the traps? Probably. But man, I would love it if there was a board and at the beginning you put certain cards for face down, and like when a player gets there you flip it up, and suddenly whether it's an item or an action or a character, that's something they have to deal with. There is a big part of me that feels like I'm taking it a bit too far, but I hope it's at least somewhere in the middle. Right? Like, I do think there's something to be said for keeping as much of the game traditional Lorcana as possible. Like, that is a fair opinion to have. So maybe it shouldn't go as far as I've just taken it. But I think a middle ground somewhere where it's at least different to the way that Deep Trouble played out. I just love a little bit of originality, and who knows, man. Nonetheless, I am so excited, and I sent out a tweet as soon as this image was revealed just saying, Day 1 live stream, me as Jafar against guests. Do you like that? I'll tell you who does like that. But yeah, I'm super excited for Palace Heist. I'm going to be cheeky as heck here. Ravensburger, let me reveal this. Let me have this early, or let me reveal something about it. I'm so desperate to be involved in some way with the release of this game. Like a crumb. Give me a crumb, governor, please. Please! And he never worked for Ravensburger again. Nonetheless, are you excited for all of the things that we've talked about today? Are you excited for Palace Heist? I'd love some discussion in the comments about everything I've speculated. Is there anything I've said that you like, don't like? Do you have any ideas of your own? But that's going to be it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.